hustlers, asking for the cost of living to be lowered. Where did the tables turn?
Yeah. So first of all, let me put some fact that because sometimes we have to put things into perspective. Just something, the Hulu farm which has just been invaded, an F investment with a company from France, and yet somebody is going to Europe to look for money from Europe to come and invest here, and an FDI investment is being looted, being destroyed. For me, it's very ironical of the day. Along the Kamaki thing, that is what I'm talking about. So Spectre also is the same thing. So coming back to your point on the Hustler Fund, you see the Hustler Fund is so important to him, and I could see when he talks about it, it's so emotional. But Hustler Fund has got everything wrong with it. First of all, the governance. According to the Public Financial Act, you need to have a board. You need to have a secretariat. At the same time, you need to do what's called competitive bidding of the person supplying something. For example, the fintech company that runs the Hustler Fund also needs to be competitively sourced. So there are some things there are some illegalities here. For example, asking people for M-Pesa PIN. The other thing, you're talking about the issue that Kenyans are saving money. And they are saving money in which bank and which bank account? Michelle, you'll be a fool if you come to my bank and tell me that you have saved money with me and you can't tell me your bank account. You can't tell me your branch, where you belong. We are being told this money is being saved in a pension scheme. The only pension scheme we know of which is official for government, NSSF. Ask any of the hustlers whether they have their NSSF number. So for me, this is a hoax. It's a haste, isn't it? Because nothing wrong with it. When I took the president to court, let me just clarify here, because the one who went to court with the 21 reasons why Hustler Fund was illegal. I stated those things. The parliament did not appropriate the fund, isn't it? So I asked control of budget, where is the money coming from? The control of budget knows where every money is and where it is going. They can't answer that question. Now the president went and said he'll come back to parliament in February to ask parliament to appropriate a fund after spending 25 billion. Michelle, you spend 25 billion shillings is when you're seeking for permission to spend that money. For me, that is mind-boggling. The other thing which is also disturbing is that the president went and appointed the board of hustlers. Appointing the board of hustlers, what happened in the board of hustlers? He did not follow the law. I went to court again. First, it was not advertised. They were not competitively sourced. There was no vetting, just like the CAS were not vetted also. Then the court gave an order that they should never take oath of office. They cannot be able to be sworn in. And until now, that has not happened. So how do you spend 60 billion shillings, which is not well appropriated? So the president talks about keeping the law, and they preach to us the law and the constitution, telling Raila Odinga, follow the law, follow the constitution, and everything you're doing is just against that. So what I'm trying to say, if you tell me initiative Kenya Kwanza has done, I don't see any, because the only thing they promised was women, which was not done. But he promised that he's going to give money to the police. He gave, isn't it? He appointed judges. Now I'm asking myself, for the 8-year-old who is sleeping hungry, how does appointing a judge help them? But I'm not asking for these things whereby appointing the judge. We should be hearing, are Kenyans getting more justice in court? Appointing a judge is just your thing. Are we getting more court cases being dispensed so that justice is dispensed much faster? Because there's what we call leading variables and lagging variables. Lagging variable are the things you do. Leading variable is what Kenyans are getting. Is Hustler Fund making Kenyans less hungry? You can see the streets, they're carrying sufurias, they're hungry. These people are jobless. So are we reducing joblessness? Are we reducing cost of living? Are we making our Kenyans' life more affordable? Inflation has moved from 7.3% when he took office to 9.3%. Inflation is going up. The dollar has moved from 115 to almost 150. Or you want the dollar to be 2,000, then we become like Zimbabwe, is when we say now we are in trouble. I'm saying, how long should Kenyans wait? Then we see a turnaround. Because if you say talk about time, when I give you a patient, when they are running on the streets, you know, when you are going to hospital, you can go through outpatient. You can go and get checked, then you go home. The patient was like that. That's how the economy was. All of a sudden, when you get the sword, the patient's in ICU. Are we waiting the patient to be taken to the mortuary? Then we say, we have lost the economy.
Right.
So I'm saying, how far is too far that we can wait?
Right. And Sophie, perhaps you can help us answer that question, because promises have been made. As early as last week, we had, promises of gas will be lower in 2 months, and you'll be buying gas at 500 shillings. And, promises that sound good, but they have not yet come to pass. What do you make of these promises? And like he asks, how long is too long for Kenyans to wait? Has the government come out to speak on timelines on which Kenyans can bank on?
Just like in business, Michelle, when you're going out to pitch your proposal, you really need to have plans and sell out your plans with what you'd call your proper execution plan, which will be able to deliver whatever it is that you're selling onto the people. This is where they missed. For them, it was all PR. I don't know whether they believe this is how campaigns are done in this country. They forget that they are dealing with a different breed of Kenya who are more enlightened, more educated, and they're all in the street yet to see how they turn around this thing. So it was more of so much hot air talks that they forgot about the implementation bit, which they needed to put as a business plan for them to be able to achieve this. An example is the Hustler Fund that my brother here is talking about. I've interacted with Mama Mboga, who is supposedly or purportedly supposed to be receiving this. How do you then measure your success or your proposal deliverables when you do not be able to, you're unable to deliver people from what it is that they're suffering from? How do you say that you've elevated Mama Mboga's life, whose business, let's say for instance, I normally buy Sukuma Wiki at a place where Mama Mboga has to restock every morning. And if you ask this Mama Mboga how much they got from the Hustler Fund, 1,000 bob, then how does that help somebody like that to be able to say, yes, we have fulfilled our promises, yet they're still in the street crying for the same?
All right, let's talk about, with the high inflation, the high cost of living. The Kenya Kwanza's government was to broaden the tax base so that Kenya can borrow less and finance most of its expenditure in-house itself. Now, many raised questions on how Kenya could broaden the tax base. Let's talk about that, considering that subsidies was scrapped because Kenya's debt ceiling was too high. The president trying to ensure that the country stops borrowing and, finances its own expenditure. Was the president on the right path in terms of expanding the tax base? And is it viable to lower the cost of living in the short term?
Well, I happen to be married to a health official, and she told me that when you bring in a patient and the patient needs a stabilization, you don't look for other person first or another doctor. You stabilize the patient. Meaning, if the person cannot breathe, you make sure he breathes or she breathes. Now, when you come into an economy like ours, that has been struggling in the last 10 years, you've been the deputy president. First of all, you study it and leave it to run as it were first, for the first 6 months. Then from there, you make remedies to the same you want to change. Now, you cannot tell us that you want to increase the tax base. We have an economist. Without increasing the economical base, you tax people. There is nobody who taxes business. If these guys buy this mobile at 30,000 and they bring it to Kenya, they sell it at 40,000, I'm the one paying for the tax. The business guy is making profit. Now Kenya has three things that always raise inflation. We have what we call big government. So our government is very bloated. Instead of having a leaner government, he increased it because Uhuru at 23, he made it 50. The PSS have gone to 40. 50 or 40 something. We have 20 being where our money is stolen. Why do we need the office of the first lady and the second lady and the third lady and the fourth lady? These are not people we gave them their mandates. When we elected you, we did not vote for your wife or your child.
And their daughters too.
And have a wife. My dad has a wife. So what's so special having a wife? Everyone have prospered. You cannot prosper
At home. Yes, true.
relatives. Like this Ramadan, these farms and in the basic, there is no economical activities going on because the government did not do much. You are saying for 18 counties, you are told that in 7 months your office has spent 9 billion. You are allocating 800 plus to buy cars when people in Turkana and in northern Kenya dying of hunger. What's your priority as a country to make sure, you know, it is in Uganda than in Kenya. Even Ethiopia is better than us. Land is so expensive in Kenya that Kenyans, I know a former member of parliament who is now doing business in Tanzania. I know guys who are opening Tanzania. TV, some of them are operating from there. Why? Because certain cliques are making policies in line with profit, in line with members of parliament today. Can we authoritatively say we have a parliament to tell Mr. President, we are part of UDA, but on this one we can't do it. The only hope now we are going to look is the courts and the UDA government, because Kenya Kwanza is, who is Kenya Kwanza, by the way? I only say UDA government because what we see is Ruto making decisions, Mudavadi and the co clapping for him. Yeah. The government. These ones are just, you know, it's like a married man having some pango candles. Those are not legitimate. So what we need as a country is a president who is leading this country, who will realize that he is the 5th president. Now, I thought before he is going to be number 2, maybe in terms of better than Senior, Moi, and Uhuru. But now he might be number 3 if he's not careful. Because what he's trying to do, and I don't think he listens, because if you look at even the tweets of some people in government, his politicians and his economists are speaking from different lenses. It's like keeping milk here and water here and you think they're not going to mix. Mr. Ruto needs to settle down and say, look, what is it that I can do to make sure that these young men and women have jobs? Those SMEs in California have access to loans, cheaper loans. Hustler Fund, my county has the highest defaulters. Mandera County government has been said from a citizen, 78% of the defaulters come from Mandera County government. Mandera County in northern Kenya, which means the people who borrowed that money are not able to pay. Because I already borrowed 500 and I ate. How do you expect me to buy? What are you going to do with 500 Mandela? You eat. And then that's it. So how is Hustler Fund? What these guys to focus is to say, in the next 2 harvests that we are waiting, what are we supposed to do? Now, they want to import maize and beans. I have information that the people who are going to bring maize, rice, sugar, and oil are only 4 or 5. Why do you do that? Open it for them. Let Professor take it to Kisumu. I take it to Mandera. It's going to be cheap when it's brought by many people. But when it's brought by 4 people, it's going to be expensive because those guys will mint our blood by making a lot of profit. So still, that policy of saying 4 to 5 people are going to import beans or maize free duty, I tell you, within the next 2 months, Ugali will go to tell Kenyans to import maize, beans, sugar, oil.
going if the state is saving this much money? Now, many seem to be of the option that subsidies need to be brought back, especially subsidies for basic commodities, subsidies on fuel, on unga, and very basic commodities. Can the government afford that? And is the Kenya Kwanza government being honest about whether there is money or not?
First of all, let me tell you that President Ruto has introduced more taxes than Uhuru did. His assumption is that he will collect more. And actually, he is collecting more money. And also, he has borrowed more in his 6 months, more than Uhuru did. And I've been asking this question. I'm happy you asked me again directly, and I can tell you that is the big question Ruto needs to answer, because he has suspended 19 infrastructure projects that should be happening. I have intelligence, and as Abdullahi says, people can say they are government, there is no intelligence that people don't know. Because I told you, Kenyans, we meet in the restaurant, we have dinner, we are related. You may not even know that maybe one of the person in the security agency is in my state. And I know what they say. What I'm trying to say in short is that this government has postponed even digitization of certain things that President Uhuru Kenyatta started. Most of the projects that President Uhuru Kenyatta began, they have been suspended. Infrastructure projects have been suspended. Tax collection has been increased, and it's a big noise. Borrowing has been enhanced. The question is, why is he taking the money? And they're not discussing about corruption. And look at the cars these guys are now driving. Look at the life these guys are living, the guys who have joined government. Look at how bloated the government is. And Michelle, as an economist, let me just explain two concepts. There's what we call economic growth. Economic growth is how much are you able to collect in terms of revenue, which is taxes. And economic development is how do you ensure that people get access to goods of life. If Kenyans can get more access to education, can go access to healthcare, can get better access to let's say, basic commodities, then we are having better economic development, because development means access to goods of life. Now, if the economy has grown, and we have been told the projection this year is 5%, but 5% of 110 billion dollars in the previous years when Uhuru Kenyatta was the president, it was growing at the same amount. Why are we not seeing more benefits? Because if economy grew last year higher than in 2017 when Uhuru began his first term, and they grew consistently, COVID disrupted a little bit again, the growth picked up again at 4.5%, then again they went to 5.6%. Now this year it's still growing at 5 and above. Why is it that Kenyans are not seeing it on their plate when they go for dinner or for lunch? Why is it that we can't see it when you go to hospital? How can't we see it when you go to school? It's harder to take someone to university now. In fact, some people are missing university. The transition from secondary to tertiary has gone down. Uhuru did 100%. During Magoha's burial, they said that one thing Magoha did with Matiang'i was to ensure 100% transition from primary school to secondary school and secondary school to tertiary school, tertiary education. If these figures are not working, how many beds per population? How many doctors per population? How many ICU beds? You know, all these matrices, if that is not increasing, it means this money is getting lost. So my suspicion is we will find out at some point where this money was going. And I can, maybe it's not good to disclose here, but Operation Togatuzi is having a lot of investigation about some cases of corruption. And soon you'll see some files coming out. We'll disclose them in court. We have intelligence that there's a scheme where money is actually going. Some people who are ministers are not spending time in this country. They're outside, in Dubai. A minister, Dubai, what are you doing in Dubai? We have an ambassador there. Why can you spend most of your time in Dubai? So all these things we are seeing is that this government has what we call misplaced priorities. They are putting money where it's not our priority. You can blame Uhuru Kenyatta the way you want, but Uhuru Kenyatta talked about stimulus economy to bring faith back. The another thing which I want to say here, Michelle, is that the way we are talking about the economy, we cannot survive. Because if you say that economy is dilapidated, it's fine. People are saying we must say the truth, that is fine. But once you say the economy dilapidated, then you're giving you money to invest. Then you're telling people they should borrow money from the economy to invest in a dilapidated economy. That doesn't work. And then secondly, the tax policy. You know, if you're an investor, you cannot go to invest in an economy where we have unstable tax policy, where you wake up the ear tax, tomorrow the leg tax, the other day hair tax. You know, an investor in New York or London is asking, when will I get my reward if tomorrow taxes are changing depending on who is talking on TV? Someone goes to, I don't know, Ikisumu, a new tax. When someone is Mombasa, introduce a new tax. Somebody, land tax. How are we going to ensure that investors can predict their outcome of the investment? So what I can tell you is that this government has proven to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but this government has proven to me that they don't have that stroke of genius to solve the issue. And that's why we can't wait. Mandamano should continue to force this government to wake up, because I can tell you how I'm seeing it. They haven't woken up. Even their PR, Twitter, you are a CS, a whole CS in charge of trade. On your Twitter, you talk about Magota. You know, you are a CS of trade, which will be talking about global issues. You are tweeting about
negotiating.
No, so I'm saying, for me, these guys need training on public administration. They need training on what's called communication etiquettes. They need training on how to handle economy. And I've gone on record saying that David Ndii, if David Ndii continues to advise William Ruto, the tough-headedness and misuse of the economy will continue. Because of why? Let me put it. David Ndii is an educated guy. He went to Rhodes School, Oxford School, Rhodes School of Business in Oxford. After his to Kenya, he was advising Jaramogi against Moi. Jaramogi, remember, was not in government. Advised Raila against Moi, then Raila against Kibaki, then he advised now Ruto against Uhuru. He's never advised a single government in power. He's never known how to turn around any single economy. Being the chair of Economic Council, and he has been allocated 231 million shillings for his cars, it is telling you this money is going to feed the Kenya Kwanza sympathizers, friends, supporters, and cronies. It is not going to Kenya. And that's why Kenya is on the street.
And you're saying the government is not genius. It is genius in some very obvious ways. And it's quite evident. You can see what is happening. I mean,
of course, we'll have to have backing of some of the issues that we have to put up here.
Have numbers.
With numbers and statistics, but we'll be discussing that a bit later. We have live pictures there as the convoy of the opposition leader Raila Odinga reaches Ngong Road. We understand that the leaders are attempting to lead the supporters into the Nairobi business district. Similar attempts were thwarted by anti-riot police last week, and it remains to be seen what will ensue as they near the central business district. And as this happens, remember just earlier on we had reports of unknown goons having attacked the Spectre International offices in industrial area here in Nairobi. These are offices that are associated with the family of the opposition leader Raila Odinga. Also earlier on we had an invasion at Northlands, where hundreds of goons invaded the former President Uhuru Kenyatta Northlands family land in Ruiru along the eastern bypass. We had the goons on camera there gaining access to the farm after destroying a barbed wire fence. We do have reports that they did set part of the farm on fire and were seen carrying sheep and goats out of that land. These are reports and the issues that continue happening as the Mandamano take place. In other parts of the country, police are continuing with running battles with opposition supporters, especially along in Mathare here in Nairobi, where police continue to engage protesters in running battles, stopping them from joining the convoy of the opposition leader Raila Odinga. Many of his supporters now trying to head into the central business district where the convoy is currently heading. We also had police earlier with protesters along Kakamega who are also coming out to protest following the call by opposition leader Raila Odinga to protest, to force the government to lower the cost of living. Sophie, as this happens, and when you take a look at the demonstrators here, we're seeing a lot of young men, and this points out to the rate of unemployment in the country, you know, cost of doing business as well is so high that many businesses just will not hold. What can the Kenya Kwanza government do to improve, you know, prospects of employment in the country? And remember, this has been a headache even for, you know, the Jubilee administration before and the administration before that. What is the solution for the high unemployment rate in the country?
The solution is not to overpromise what they really know they can't do for these people. And it's very unfortunate that the biggest numbers we have as a Kenyan population is young. So my expectations were to see the delivery of the manifesto they had sold to us in terms of jobs and creating more jobs to Kenyans. For these particular youths, they had promised cottage industries in each and every county. Lesson to learn also to the Mwananchi that voting is coming as a very critical aspect of their lives. When you, like Moi had put it, siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. So I think we are all and from the government as well, do not promise what you can deliver. And let's live on practicalities. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's easy, start from where we are. There's so many, we are blessed as a country, a lot of resources. If that can be tapped in and do away with the monopolization that Abdullahi has just said, this is killing us. Open it to everybody else so that it trickles down to each and every Kenyan, including that small person who sells ungas in, you know, small containers in the streets. That is how we are going to be, you know, to cushion everybody in this biting economy. So overpromising, but what is coming up clearly is that before I even say that, I ask myself as a Kenyan, and many would attest to it, what happened to professionalism and accountability in leadership in this? Because they seem to really run away from that. They're hiding, they're making it, they're doing everything possible to hide from everything. And like Mswahili would say, siku ya nyani kufa miti zote uteleza. This is what is happening right here. And what is coming out is like, clearly, there was no goodwill from this Kenya Kwanza government. Their only mission was to bag whatever it is that they can bag at this particular time they are in power. And as we speak, and as per the look of things, they are a very worried government. If this continues the way it's continuing, believe you me, and this is what, this is actually also like, smoking the snake out of the nini, of the holes, because like it's like they are so much in a hurry to at least get or gather whatever it is they can. So in case they do not come back, then they have something. That's what I'm telling.
All right, and
the leadership in this country, we have seen it deteriorating to the core on this with this Kenya Kwanza government.
Okay, Abdullahi, just before I bring you in, is there? Supporters of the opposition seemingly try to plan their way into the central business district. We understand earlier on, while at Kawangware, the supporters did set on fire a police vehicle that had thrown tear gas to the crowd. And in Kwandele, we understand that one person has been shot dead, with two others nursing gunshot wounds as the demonstrations continue. Abdullahi, let's bring in the fact that protesters actually set on fire a vehicle belonging to police, and this was against you know, the premise of peaceful demonstrations and, you know, peaceful demonstrations that do not infringe on the rights of others. What do you make of those developments?
Well, I think also if the police did their job very well, we will not have people. I mean, everything as the Mio guys are doing is reaction to what the police is doing, because if we are already marching towards the road, why are you throwing tear gas at us? Because I would have said that the police are justified in the sense that if the entourage and the people, you know, plying that road are vandalizing along the shops and hitting people, I would have justified the police to use force. But when people are just walking, you know, holding sides of the cars and making sure that they you know, demonstrating, then I don't even think the police were advised very well on if I was part of the advisory in the police, I would have told, let's guard all government installations. Let's have patrol units in most of the roads, but let's allow to move. Any one or two who misbehave, we throw him through the Land Cruiser and take him to jail. But now,